Welcome to our channel. In this video we will review some facts about Nevada, USA. But before we start, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for future updates. Nevada is the 36th state in the United States, and it is a diamond in the rough. People may argue that the state's significance is restricted due to its desert setting. However, Nevada now has one of the most robust economies in the United States, attracting people and money from all over the world. Nevada's name has its own backstory. In Spanish, Nevada is an adjective that means either snowy or snow-covered. The word was first used by the Spaniards to the Sierra Nevada mountain range, which, unfortunately, is primarily located in California. A portion of the range extends into Nevada, which was previously known as Alta California. When the United States separated what would become Nevada from Utah in 1861, the new territory was called after the mountain range. Despite constituting a word in Spanish, the name is pronounced differently than the Spanish adjective. Similarly, Nevadans pronounce their state's name differently than their fellow Americans. Nevada has a distinct geography. The Great Basin, which covers the majority of northern Nevada, is a desert region that occasionally receives rain as part of the Arizona monsoon. Similarly, winter storms that wash in from the Pacific Ocean may occasionally deliver snow to the desert. However, natural water sources such as the Humboldt River exist in northern Nevada. Other rivers such as the Carson, Truckee, and Walker run east down the Sierra Nevada into the state's north. All of these rivers flow into the state's northern lakes, Carson Sink, Pyramid Lake, and Walker Lake, in that order. Mountains and valleys break up the ground in central Nevada, reaching heights of up to 4 kilometers. Finally, despite being part of the Mojave Desert, southern Nevada has natural water supplies in the form of the Colorado River. Lake Mead, the largest water reservoir in the United States, is located in Nevada. The lake is located 39 kilometers east of Las Vegas, along the Colorado River, between Nevada and Arizona. The lake is not natural. It was created in 1935 as a reservoir for the Hoover Dam. At full capacity, the lake is 180 kilometers long, 162 meters deep, and holds an estimated 32.24 kilometers of water. However, due to the effects of drought and rising water demands in the region, the lake has never achieved its maximum capacity since the 1980s. Lake Mead, in particular, supplies water not only to Nevada and Arizona, but also to California and even Mexico. Boundary Point is the highest point in the state. The mountain is located in Esmeralda County, southern Nevada, as part of the White Mountains. It is also part of the Boundary Peak Wilderness, which is part of the larger Inyo National Forest. The name of the mountain stems from its proximity to the California border, which is less than 1 kilometer away. Montgomery Summit, immediately across the border, is a comparable peak that is less than a kilometer away. Boundary Point is 4,007 meters tall, barely 90 meters shorter than Montgomery Peak. Boundary Peak is even considered a sub-peak of Montgomery Peak by geologists. Some geologists even claim that Wheeler Summit in eastern Nevada, at 3,925 meters, should become the state's highest peak. The climate in Nevada is harsh. So much so that it is known as the driest state in the entire United States. Outside of the Las Vegas Valley, the average July temperature in Nevada never falls below 22 degrees Celsius. Nevada receives only 180 millimeters of rain per year on average, with the most of it falling on the mountains. Rainfall can be heavy there, with yearly rainfall exceeding the norm by up to 1 meter per year. During the summer, temperatures in the state can reach 52 degrees Celsius. In the winter, temperatures can plunge to 42 degrees Celsius below zero. Despite having the driest climate in the United States, temperatures in Nevada do not reach the extremes experienced by their neighbors. In fact, California can get much hotter than Nevada, with temperatures reaching 52 degrees Celsius. Seas previously covered what is now known as Nevada. This occurred over 541 million years ago, during the Precambrian Eon, and lasted into the succeeding ages. Paleontologists have identified at least 500 different species of fossils from the Cambrian, Devonian, and Carboniferous periods. However, ocean levels began to fall some 359 million years ago. As a result, lagoons and beaches formed in eastern Nevada. Water levels continued to fall over the next few months. By the Jurassic period 201 million years ago, both eastern and southern Nevada had become marshes. And, after 66 million years, Nevada had completely risen from the ocean. In prehistoric Nevada, life flourished. Woodlands covered Nevada roughly 66 million years ago, at the start of the Cenozoic era. Oaks, redwoods, and willows are examples of ancient trees. Animal life flourished as well, with mammals evolving into prehistoric horses and rhinos. During this time, Nevada was also home to woolly mammoths and huge ground sloths. Life in Nevada flourished all the way up to the Pleistocene epoch, with lions, mastodons, and wolves among other species. Nevada has so many fossils that there are state parks dedicated to them, such as Ice Age Fossils State Park and Tule Springs Fossil Beds National Monument. In the 18th century, Spain colonized Nevada. The Spaniards first arrived in Nevada in the 1770s and included it into the Viceroyalty of New Spain. For administrative purposes, the Spaniards separated the area that encompassed modern Nevada from California in 1804, naming it Alta California, Upper California. As a result, when Mexico gained independence from Spain in 1821, it retained control of the territory. Because of the territory's limited population at the time, the Mexicans never contemplated making Alta California a Mexican federal state. After capturing the territory during the Mexican-American War, the U.S. government maintained this approach. Ironically, American pioneers would arrive in Nevada even before the conflict began. Contrary to popular belief, gambling was once outlawed in Nevada. This dates back before the U.S. government separated it from the Utah Territory, and it has continued even after statehood in 1864. Nonetheless, gaming became quite popular among the region's miners and other settlers. Attempts to outlaw gambling were met with fierce opposition, prompting authorities to turn a blind eye. However, in the early 20th century, federal authorities launched a nationwide anti-gambling campaign beginning in 1910. Then came the Great Depression, and in a desperate attempt to keep the economy afloat, the state government authorized gambling. They intended it to be a temporary solution, but due to its widespread success and Nevada's subsequent wealth, gambling remains allowed in Nevada to this day. Unlike gaming, prostitution has always been allowed in Nevada. This dates back to the mid-19th century, when settlers flocked to the area and adjacent California in search of gold. The earliest attempts to control the industry occurred in 1937, when the state mandated monthly health tests for prostitutes. During World War II, the business grew to service soldiers stationed in the area, but President Franklin D. Roosevelt ordered the closing of brothels near U.S. bases in 1942. This injunction remained in effect until 1948, and beginning in the 1950s, local governments in Nevada began closing down brothels as public nuisances. However, beginning in the 1970s, brothels were granted licenses to operate lawfully. Today, the legality of prostitution is delegated to local county governments in Nevada. Clark County, which encompasses Nevada as well as the state seat of Carson City, has banned prostitution. During World War II, the United States established the first military facilities in Nevada. Las Vegas Army Airfield, currently known as Nellis Air Force Base, is one of them. Today, it also has the most military schools and squadrons of any Air Force installation. Indian Spring AAF, currently known as Creech Air Force Base, is another base that is still in use today. There's also the Naval Air Station Fallon and a gunnery range in the Black Rock Desert that was still operational throughout the Cold War. Other bases, such as Reno Army Air Base, later became civilian airports after the war, such as Reno Stead Airport. The Churchill Flight Strip, which became Silver Springs Airport, and the Owyhee Flight Strip, which became Owyhee Airport, are also nearby. Area 51 is located in Nevada. Area 51, also known as Homey Airport or Groom Lake, is one of the most secret facilities in the United States. This sparked a slew of conspiracy theories, with some believing the base stores stolen or recovered alien technology for research. The fact that the U.S. government and military have declined to comment on Area 51 until lately has further added to the base's cult status. However, the U.S. government ultimately issued an official statement about Area 51 in 2013. The base's secret stems from its use as a test ground for experimental stealth and jet technology. Among the planes created there are the Cold War-era U-2 espionage planes and their descendants. Stealth warplanes such as the F-117 Nighthawk were also developed at Area 51, which now houses its more popular replacement, the F-22 Raptor. The United States Navy has also named ships after states. The original USS Nevada was built as the USS Nishamani, a frigate built in 1865. In May 1869, it was renamed the USS Arizona, and in November of same year, it was renamed the USS Nevada. However, due to a faulty design, the ship was never completed and was scrapped in 1874. The following USS Nevada was commissioned in 1903 as a naval monitor for coastal protection before touring during WWI. She was named after the battleship USS Nevada, which was commissioned in 1916. The monitor was dismantled in 1922, but the battleship survived Pearl Harbor and fought in World War II. The battleship was sunk in 1948 after being used as a target for gunnery exercise. The current USS Nevada is an Ohio-class nuclear submarine that was commissioned in 1986 and carries 24 nuclear missiles. Nevada is also notorious for its nuclear testing history. In 1951, the U.S. government established the Nevada Proving Ground, which is located 105 kilometers northwest of Nevada. The U.S. military could easily test nuclear bombs here, distant from populations and with the desert limiting environmental pollution. The first test was conducted the next year, with a 1-kiloton nuclear weapon detonated at Frenchman Flat. From 1951 through 1992, about 1,000 tests were conducted, with surface detonations ending in 1962 and underground testing continuing until 1992. However, non-explosive testing continued after that, with 27 tests occurring until 2012. Later, in 2018, the state government filed a lawsuit against the federal government over plans to keep nuclear materials at the Nevada Proving Ground. The United States also has a contentious plan to deposit nuclear waste in Nevada. The concept dates back to 1987 and involves the construction of an underground storage facility beneath the upper mountains, 130 kilometers northwest of Las Vegas. Congress approved money under the Bush administration in 2002, only to reverse course and stop funding under the Obama administration in 2011. Environmentalists have been outspoken in their opposition to the idea, citing the risk of subsurface contamination from seeping garbage. They have also garnered considerable backing from local lawmakers and the majority of Nevadans. Despite efforts by advocates of the proposal to resume funding, neither the Trump nor Biden administrations have done so. In fact, the Trump administration has scrapped all plans for underground nuclear waste storage, whereas the Biden administration has confessed that it is not even on the table. Nevada's capital remains Carson City. The community is named after the adjacent Carson River, which is named for Kit Carson, an explorer who led John Fremont's expedition into the region in 1843. Originally simply a trade post and a ranch, the site grew into a true city thanks to the mid-19th century gold rush. It grew much more with statehood, when it was designated as Nevada's capital. However, the city collapsed in the late 19th century as new railroads to the north curtailed trade. However, after the 1940s, industrialization caused the city to recover and even develop. Today, the city has a population of 55,000 people and covers an area of around 400 kilometers too. The city is home to its own hot springs. The hot springs were developed in the 1880s, with hotels and other facilities springing up around them. In the 1910s, local bottlers began selling mineral water sourced from the city's hot springs, continuing the pattern. Geologists estimate that the springs release up to 230 liters of water every minute from underground sources as deep as 11 kilometers. Temperatures typically hover around 49 degrees Celsius. Carson Hot Springs now has indoor bathing spaces, an outdoor swimming pool, eating, massage, and other services. While other hot springs exist in the adjacent Eagle Valley and have seen development, Carson City's hot springs remain the largest in the area. However, Las Vegas remains the most well-known city in Nevada. The name was given to the flat plains where the city presently stands by Mexican explorers in 1821. In Spanish, it literally means the meadows, referring to the grassy and even flower-covered regions of the Las Vegas Valley. During the 19th century, only supply forts stood in the area, with the city only beginning to grow in 1905 as part of railway building in the area. The legalization of gambling in 1931, as well as the completion of the Hoover Dam, would result in a surge in urban growth in Las Vegas. The boom continued throughout World War II and the 1950s, paradoxically because city dwellers could safely observe nuclear testing in the distance while avoiding radioactive fallout. Today, the city has a population of about 600,000 people and an estimated 370 kilometers (2 area. The Las Vegas Strip is also the most well-known portion of the city. It encompasses a section of Las Vegas Boulevard South, which has the city's highest concentration of hotels and casinos. Because of the abundance of casinos on the Strip, maximum recorded profits of up to $6 billion, or 26% of Las Vegas' total annual earnings, are possible. The Bellagio, Caesars Palace, and the Mirage are among the Strip's major casinos and hotels. Celebrities have also made historic appearances and events on the Strip. Among them are, among others, Barry Manilow, Britney Spears, Celine Dion, Elton John, Elvis Presley, Frank Sinatra, Jennifer Lopez, Lady Gaga, and Mariah Carey. Cirque du Soleil, the world's largest circus, also has various shows on the Strip on a regular basis. The Las Vegas Strip is also known for actively seeking sustainability. These include water-saving practices like collecting and treating wastewater before returning it to Lake Mead. The reduction of outdoor water features has also helped to reduce water loss due to evaporation. Recycling is also widely practiced on the Strip, with an average of 40% of all waste produced being recycled afterward. Outside of the Strip, the rest of Clark County recycles only about 20% of all waste produced. There are also measures in place to reduce wasted energy, such as using LED lights instead of incandescent or fluorescent bulbs. MGM has also invested in renewable energy for their Mandalay Bay Resort and Casino, with solar panels capable of meeting up to 25% of their energy requirements. The Golden Gate Hotel and Casino is Las Vegas's oldest hotel and casino. It was opened as the Hotel Nevada in 1906 and rapidly earned a reputation for providing high-rate services. Its popularity rose so quickly that the hotel's owner, John Miller, was forced to expand it in less than a year. The hotel was also the first in Nevada to have a telephone, which was built in 1907. When gambling was prohibited in Nevada in 1910, the hotel's casino closed, only to return in 1931. In the same year, it was renamed the Sal Sagav, or Las Vegas Backward. In 1955, the casino was expanded and renamed the Golden Gate Casino. The Sal Sagav name remained on the hotel until 1974, when it combined with the casino to become the Golden Gate Hotel and Casino. Ironically, the Northern Club was the first casino in Las Vegas to get a gaming license. Even more oddly, it began as a coffee house, starting in 1913 and rebranding itself the Northern Club in 1920. When gambling became legal in Nevada in 1931, the Northern Club was the first to obtain a casino license. Mame Stocker, the club's proprietor, was also the first woman to get a gambling license. Over the next few decades, the club was renamed numerous times. It was renamed the Turf Club in 1943, and then the Monte Carlo in 1945. In 1970, it was renamed the Coin Castle, and in 1999, it was renamed La Bayou. La Bayou closed in 2016, and the structure was dismantled later that year. There is also a neon sign museum in Las Vegas. The Neon Museum, which was founded in 1996 but was opened to the public in 2012, collects and maintains various neon signs. These signs have artistic and historical significance to the city, as confirmed not only by business owners and the local administration, but also by Las Vegas people. The museum's public debut in 2012 was made possible by the Doumani family's donation of the historic La Conca Motel's lobby to the museum. Over 60,000 people visited the museum in 2012 alone, and it expanded in 2017 to accommodate more visitors as well as make more room for new additions to the museum's collection. In 2018, the museum began offering free admission to visitors to commemorate its 5th anniversary. It also features a museum dedicated to the history of the Mafia. The displays at the Mob Museum, which first opened in 2012, include a rebuilt courtroom similar to the one used by the Kefauver Committee. The Kefauver Committee, which met from 1950 to 1951, revealed to the U.S. Senate the extent to which organized crime had grown across the country. The displays at the Mob Museum also contain the real brick wall from the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. Other exhibitions include a massive collection of photographs, each of which depicts a victim of a mob killing, as well as a presentation on organized crime today. The FBI supports the museum's opening and continuous operation, however it is opposed by Italian-American advocates. The most pressing issue confronting Las Vegas today is water supply. While it has not yet caused any problems, city officials are expecting it to do so in the future. Statistics show that water use is increasing year after year, with Las Vegas using 4.5 billion liters more in 2014 than in 2011. Rather than waiting for a drought to cause disaster, Las Vegas has begun construction on a new tunnel and pumping station to connect the city to Lake Mead. Another water pipeline throughout the state is also being considered today. While opponents believe that limiting urban growth over building new water facilities is preferable, business leaders emphasize the relevance of urban expansion to the city's economy. In Las Vegas, there was also a mass shooting. This occurred on October 1, 2017, when 64-year-old Stephen Paddock opened fire from the Mandalay Hotel's 32nd floor suite. He killed 60 people and injured 411 others by firing over 1,000 rounds into the Route 91 Harvest Music Festival crowd. The incident also prompted a panic as people raced for safety, which injured another 456 people. When police arrived at the suite an hour later, they found Paddock dead from suicide. Investigation revealed Paddock used a bump stock to fire a semi-automatic rifle like an automatic rifle, leading the U.S. Justice Department to ban bump stocks nationwide. However, the Sixth Circle Court of Appeals reversed this ban in 2021, leading to renewed debate over the future of arms control in the USA. Reno, Nevada, has its own unique history. It made history in 1927 by reducing the legal residency requirement for divorce to 6 weeks. Couples from all over the country began going to Reno and, after completing the required 6 weeks of residency, filed for divorce. The city's economy grew as the service industry expanded to serve the newcomers. It also gave rise to an idiom, with "we're heading to Reno" being equal to "we're getting divorced." Reno's reputation for speedy divorces continued until the 1970s, when other states and localities lowered the divorce legal standards. The city is occasionally struck by wildfires. Most wildfires generally burn out or are put out by fire departments before they endanger the city. However, sometimes a wildfire becomes too powerful or spreads too quickly, allowing it to reach Reno and cause property damage or loss of life. The Donner Ridge Fire in 1960 knocked out Reno's power grid for 4 days. Wildfires do not necessarily occur as a consequence of natural factors, such as the sun's heat or a lightning strike that ignites flammable materials. Damaged electricity lines sparked a wildfire in 2011, destroying 26 homes and killing 1 person. Then, in 2012, carelessly discarded ashes sparked another wildfire, forcing nearly 10,000 residents to flee their homes. Reno experiences earthquakes on a regular basis. The most recent occurred in 2008, when multiple earthquakes struck consecutively from February to April. The most powerful occurred on April 25, with a Richter scale magnitude of 4.7. It damaged residences in the Mogul and Somerset suburbs and ruined over 60 meters of Highland Ditch fume. The latter, in particular, deprived Reno's Chalk Bluff water treatment facility of the water it required to function. It also caused problems for farmers and other residents who relied on the flume for irrigation. Nevada and neighboring California share the Death Valley. The majority of the valley is located in eastern California, but due to its length, it reaches into southern Nevada. Death Valley, which has an estimated area of 8,000 square kilometers, has the second lowest point in the Western Hemisphere, at 86 meters below sea level. The name stems from the early 19th century, when a party of gold prospectors became stranded and died in the valley. The valley also has the warmest temperatures on the planet, with a high of 54 degrees Celsius. It further surpassed that in Furnace Creek in 1973, with midday temperatures reaching 94 degrees Celsius, nearly enough to boil water. Rain does fall in Death Valley on occasion. Enough so that the valley receives up to 40 millimeters of rain each year on average. Some portions of the valley also get more rain than others, such as Greenland Ranch, which gets 60 millimeters of rain per year on average. During droughts and other hot seasons, this can dip considerably lower, with the valley's lowest quantity of rainfall recorded at 16 millimeters between 1931 and 1934. Similarly, during wet periods in the climate, additional rain might fall in the valley, like in 2005, when the valley received 150 millimeters of rain. This was sufficient to cause the formation of salt lakes on the valley floor, which evaporated the following year. Death Valley is home to Native Americans. The Timbisha tribe, in particular, who have lived in the valley for the past 1,000 years. The valley is known as Tumpesa, or rock paint, in reference to the region's red ochre-rich clay. The Timbisha number roughly 300 today, with about 50 living in Furnace Creek. An ancient town known as Mahunu by the Timbisha originally stood near Scotty's Castle in Grapevine Canyon. Its meaning is unknown. However, Hunu signifies valley in the Timbisha ancient language. Aside from those who reside in Death Valley, the majority of the tribe lives in Owens Valley, California, at Lone Pine. Lake Tahoe is also shared by Nevada and California. The lake, which is over 2 kilometers above sea level in the Sierra Nevada mountains, practically lies on top of the border between the two states. It is the largest alpine lake in the United States, with an area of 490 square kilometers, a length of 35 kilometers, and a breadth of 19 kilometers. In reality, only the Great Lakes of North America are larger than Lake Tahoe in the whole United States. It is also the second deepest lake in the United States, after Oregon's Crater Lake, with a depth of 501 meters. The lake's surroundings, which were formed roughly 2 million years ago, illustrate the changes in the environment produced by the glaciers during the last ice age. Lake Tahoe has a diverse ecosystem. So much so that an estimated 75% of the lake's environs have been designated as a national forest by the U.S. Forestry Service, the Lake Tahoe Basin Management Unit. Among the trees in the forest are California incense cedar, Jeffrey pine, lodgepole pine, red fir, and white fir. Patches of flatter land divide the forest, providing meadows, while more plant life grows near the lake's borders. Contail, curly-leaf pondtail, and Eurasian watermilfoil are a few examples. The lake is home to a variety of fish, including the Lahontan cutthroat trout, Lahontan redside, Lahontan speckled dace, and Tahoe sucker, among others. The Washoe Indians used to reside around Lake Tahoe. Not only in the Lake Tahoe area, but also in the upper valleys of the Carson, Truckee, and Water valleys. The Washoe have also had a presence that extends beyond the Sierra Nevada mountains across the Great Basin. Archaeologists have found evidence of their presence as far back as 6,000 years, with circumstantial evidence dating back much farther, to 9,000 years. The Washoe suffered greatly as a result of the region's development, with warfare breaking out between them and pioneers in the mid-19th century. However, the U.S. government eventually recognized the Washoe people's cultural rights in the Lake Tahoe area in 2002. During the American Civil War, the name of Lake Tahoe became a topic of contention. Lake Bigler was christened by American explorer John Johnson in the mid-19th century after California Governor John Bigler. During the Civil War, the governor was sympathetic to the Confederacy, prompting Union figures to oppose the name on principle. Newspapers swiftly mobilized public opposition, claiming that the name Lake Bigler was a sign of secessionist support. Other newspapers used the occasion to criticize the governor, focusing on his mismanagement of state funds. This eventually led to the federal government publicly recognizing Lake Tahoe's Native American name in 1862. Throughout the late 19th century, intellectuals would bemoan the decision. However, by the turn of the 20th century, it had become widely accepted as the lake's name. Water quality is a critical concern for Lake Tahoe. Despite efforts to regulate the use of land around the lake and purify any water that enters it, Lake Tahoe's water today has elevated nitrogen levels. While phosphorus levels in the lake remain low, nitrogen levels have risen, boosting the possibility of algae blooms. Algal blooms might cause oxygen levels in the lake to plummet to dangerously low levels, resulting in mass deaths. Since then, investigations have revealed that stormwater runoff from metropolitan areas is the primary source of excess nutrients in the lake. This complicates matters further because this type of pollution is difficult to control. Another significant issue in the lake is invasive species. These include Asian clams and mysid shrimp, both of which have harmed native fish species. In fact, native fish species were nearly extinct by 2019, when restoration efforts ultimately stabilized their numbers. Opossum shrimp are another invasive species that wiped out the lake's native water fleas by 1971. The most frightening invasive species in the lake, though, is goldfish. They begin as pets that were abandoned in the lake by their previous owners. With more food and more living space available, goldfish in the lake have grown to gigantic proportions and are fiercely competing with native species. However, progress has been made for the lake's future. Development of the lake's shores has been strictly regulated since the 1950s. Business groups have been strongly opposed. However, the U.S. Supreme Court has ruled in favor of environmental concerns over business interests. The lake's waters were first monitored for nutrient and sediment levels in the 1980s. This has enabled scientists to plan strategies to mitigate the effects of lake pollution. In addition, it enabled them to detect the presence of microplastic in the lake in 2019. However, its origin is unknown at this time. In addition, as part of efforts to safeguard the lake, annual and publicly accessible lake reports are released to promote public knowledge about the lake's health. Nevada's population is extremely diversified. Whites constitute only a little majority of Nevada's population, 51%. Latinos are the second largest ethnic group, accounting for 29%, followed by African Americans, who account for 10%. Another 9% are Asian Americans, with Native Americans accounting for 1%. Asian Americans in Nevada have a distinct history, with Chinese immigrants initially arriving in the state in the mid-19th century as inexpensive labor during the gold rush. Japanese immigrants followed in the late 19th century, also as inexpensive agricultural labor. In the decades following World War I, more Asian Americans moved to Nevada. Filipino Americans, in particular, account for 56.5% of the state's Asian American population. The same is true of religion in the state. Protestant Christians account for 35% of the population, with the remaining 28% identifying as irreligious. Another 25% are Roman Catholics, 4% are Mormons, and 2% are Jews. Finally, Buddhists, Hindus, and Muslims account for less than 1% of Nevada's religious population. Surprisingly, despite the fact that Christian faiths are the majority in Nevada, the state has the lowest church attendance rates in the whole United States. In fact, barely 30% of Nevadans regularly attend church. In comparison, the average church attendance rate in the rest of the country is 42%. The state is also home to several Native American tribes. The Washoe and Timbisha tribes have already been highlighted, but they are not the only Native Americans in Nevada. The Northern Paiute tribe has a presence in the Great Basin region of western Nevada. The Southern Paiute, their sibling tribe, lives in southern Nevada, while the Western Shoshone also has a presence in the Great Basin. In truth, the Southern Paiutes have a sizable settlement in Las Vegas. Archaeological evidence reveals that their forefathers may have resided on the location long before the city was built. The Ute are another group with a presence in the Great Basin, and the Hualapai of Arizona may occasionally migrate into Nevada. Mining is still practiced in Nevada today. It isn't as essential to the state's economy as it once was, but it still contributes significantly to Nevada's economy. Nevada mines 190 million grams of gold per year on average, worth $2.4 billion and accounting for an estimated 9% of global gold production. Nevada also mines silver, with the state producing an estimated 290 million grams of silver every year, valued at $69 million. Copper, diatomite, gypsum, and lithium are among the other metals extracted in the state. Despite its value, the Nevada mining sector is unstable due to its sensitivity to swings in global prices. Cattle ranching is also a lucrative sector in Nevada. According to statistics, Nevada has 500,000 head of cattle and 70,000 head of sheep. Cattle ranchers in Nevada often allow their cows to graze on the flatlands throughout the summer before bringing them inside for the winter. Calves are an exception, as they are not relocated out of the state in the autumn in search of greener pastures. They can continue to graze there instead of relying on animal feed during the winter. They may not return to Nevada, instead being sold before reaching adulthood. Only a small percentage of cattle in Nevada are bred to produce dairy or leather, among other things. They are typically butchered for meat and other food goods. Agriculture is also practiced in Nevada. The state's agricultural products include alfalfa, hay, onions, and potatoes. Both of the first two are the most important crops farmed in Nevada. Alfalfa and hay are both used to make animal feed, particularly for cattle. This is especially vital during the winter, when the animals are unable to graze in the open. Because the state does not produce enough food, it must rely on imports. To feed Nevada's population, these imports come from the rest of the country or even from outside the United States. Even more so given the state's reliance on the tourism industry. All of this necessitates continuous imports to meet demand, not only for essential meals but also for high-end delicacies. The state has an excellent transportation system. Amtrak's California Zephyr train travels through Nevada on its way from Chicago to Emeryville, stopping in Elko, Reno, and Winnemucca. Amtrak also operates intercity buses between Nevada and California. Routes from Las Vegas to Bakersfield and Needles in California are among them. Northern and southern Nevada are served by the Union Pacific Railroad, and Interstate 15 runs through southern Nevada. Interstate 80 also runs through northern Nevada, while the Las Vegas Beltway serves the Las Vegas area. There are two major airports in Nevada, McCarran International Airport in Las Vegas and Reno-Tahoe International Airport. The same is true for the educational system of the state. Nevada has 17 public school districts that provide both primary and secondary education. There are also a number of private schools in the state, giving children a variety of educational options. Nevada also includes 10 tertiary education institutions, with the University of Nevada at Reno, UNR, being the largest. Its sister university, the University of Nevada at Las Vegas, UNLV, also has the state's lone law school, the William S. Boyd School of Law. The University Medical Center of Southern Nevada is the only connected teaching hospital of UNLV's Kirk Kerkorian School of Medicine. Nevada has its own set of tax regulations. Nevada, in particular, has no personal or corporate income taxes as part of incentives to attract individuals and businesses to the state. Nevada's sales tax varies by county, with the state government imposing a minimum of 6.85%. Elko, Esmeralda, Eureka, Humboldt, and Mineral counties all adhere to the minimum. Clark County, which contains Las Vegas, has a sales tax of 8.375%. The additional funds pay additional county costs such as flood management, law enforcement, mass transit, and public infrastructure. Washoe County has a 7.725% sales tax, which is intended to support flood control costs. Same-sex marriage was recently allowed in Nevada. Contrary to popular belief, Nevada's state constitution outlawed same-sex marriage in 2002. Despite opposition from Nevada Governor Jim Gibbons, the Nevada legislature recognized same-sex domestic partnerships in 2009. The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals then declared in 2014 that the constitutional ban on same-sex marriage was unconstitutional. This resulted in a court ruling prohibiting the execution of the Nevada Constitution's prohibition on same-sex marriage. In 2015, same-sex weddings would become lawful. The legislative ban would be repealed in 2017, and the constitutional restriction would be repealed in 2020. In 2017, Nevada will also issue its 10,000th same-sex marriage license. Nevada has liberal laws regarding alcohol and drugs, but not smoking. Nevada bars are open 24 hours a day and do not have to make a last call, after which no more alcohol is served for the rest of the night. Alcohol is also sold in a variety of locations, ranging from convenience stores and supermarkets to specialty liquor stores. Nevada legalized medical marijuana for the first time in 2000. In 2016, Nevada made it legal for individuals to grow, transport, and use marijuana for personal use exclusively. Contrary to popular belief, drug offenders in the state face the worst prosecution in the entire United States. Indeed, Nevada is the only state with mandatory minimum sentences for drug offenses. This means that, unlike in other states, judges cannot lower sentences below the minimum for any cause. In contrast to its lax alcohol and drug regulations, Nevada has prohibited smoking in public and in most workplaces since 2006. Indoor smoking is permitted only in bars that do not serve food. Smoking is still permitted in brothels, casinos, hotel rooms, and tobacco shops. When it comes to voting, Nevada residents have an additional option. Nevada is the only state in the United States that allows voters to choose none of the candidates on the ballot. They originally gave this option in 1975 and remain offered to this day for presidential, federal senatorial, and all state elections. Should a majority or even a plurality of voters vote to select none of the candidates, the candidate with the second highest number of votes becomes the winner. Nevada has also voted almost always for the winning president since 1912. They've only broken this trend twice, first in 1976 when the state voted for Gerald Ford against James Carter. This happened again in 2016 when Nevada voted for Hillary Clinton against Donald Trump. This has resulted in the media utilizing Nevada as a means to anticipate how an election could go. Nevada contributes to American sports culture. Las Vegas, for example, has the Vegas Golden Knights, which competes as part of the National Hockey League. They also have the Las Vegas Raiders, who are also members of the National Football League. Nevada also has a collegiate football team, the Nevada Wolfpack, which represents UNR. The UNLV Rebels are the university's football team. They are both members of the Mountain West Conference. The Las Vegas Aces are Nevada's women's basketball team. The University of Las Vegas had a highly successful basketball career in the past. From the late 1980s through the early 1990s, UNLV's Runnin' Rebels dominated American college basketball. They won men's Division I with a final score of 103-73 in 1990, setting records for both the most points scored as a team and the largest margin of victory at the time. The following year, 1991, they went undefeated in the regular season, a feat not repeated until 2013 by the Wichita State Shockers. From 1989 to 1991, they were also the Associated Press preseason number 1 for 3 years. Others would not repeat that feat until 2007, with North Carolina's Tar Heels doing so from 2007 to 2009. Several notable boxing contests were held in Las Vegas. There was Mike Tyson's 1996 match against Evander Holyfield, in which Tyson lost his heavyweight championship to Holyfield. The 1997 rematch was likewise held in Las Vegas, with Holyfield retaining the heavyweight title. However, the decision was contentious because he won the rematch not by defeating his opponent, but by disqualifying him. Tyson's historic incident in which he literally bit off Holyfield's ear. This resulted in his disqualification as well as the temporary loss of his boxing license. Oscar de la Hoya's 2007 battle versus Floyd Mayweather was another renowned boxing match in Las Vegas. There's also de la Hoya's 2008 match versus Manny Pacquiao, which launched Pacquiao's international celebrity. The annual Burning Man Festival is held in Nevada. It started in 1986 and has been going on for the past 35 years. In light of the COVID-19 pandemic, the event would be cancelled for the first time in 2020. However, the event returned in 2021 with limited on-site participation, with the remainder of the celebrations taking place online. The event is organized by the Burning Man Project and takes place in the Black Rock Desert, about 160 kilometers north-northeast of Reno. Tens of thousands of people attend the festival, which honors art, community, self-expression, and self-sufficiency. The event is named after the man, a large wooden effigy of a man that is burned on Burning Man Night, which is held on the Saturday night before Labor Day. The festival itself lasts a week before and 1 day after Burning Man Night, for a total of 9 days and nights of revelry. Burning Man is based on 10 principles. The first and most crucial feature is what the organizers call radical inclusiveness, which means that anyone can attend the event. The sole requirements are the ability to cater for one's own basic needs and the payment of the $475 ticket cost. The second value is gift giving, with participants known as burners unconditionally gifting each other. Following that is decommodification, which is characterized by limited cash transactions among burners. The only monetary transactions permitted are charitable contributions and payments for fuel and sanitation services. Then there's self-reliance, as demonstrated by the requirement for burners to provide for their own fundamental needs. Following that is communal effort, in which burners are supposed to support one another, and civic duty, in which burners are expected to keep law and order on their own. Then we have leave no trace, with burners expected to collect and dispose of their own trash, followed by participation. Instead of simply viewing, burners should actively participate in the event. Then there's immediacy, with burners supposed to live in the moment and have a personal experience with Burning Man. Every time the event is commemorated, the participants construct a temple. Despite its name, the temple is not affiliated with any religion. Instead, it is dedicated to all of the burners' views and ideals. Each temple has a distinct design and is dedicated to a certain topic. For example, in 2000, the burning dedicated the Temple of the Mind to the mind, hence the name. The Temple of Tears was named in 2001, while the Temple of Constraints was named in 2021. The temple is open 24 hours a day and is staffed by 400 volunteer temple guardians. Burners are welcome to visit the temple at any time and are urged to leave artworks, essays, and other dedicative things behind. On the final night of the celebration, these offerings are burned alongside the temple. Every time the event takes place, Black Rock City rises. It is a temporary city because it is only made up of residential and other facilities that spring up to assist the event. It is normally 2 semicircular arcs, one inside the other, within a 2.4 km diameter circle with the man at the center. The innermost street is usually called Esplanade, while other streets are given names based on the year's main topic. For example, in 2004, the streets were given the names of planets and other bodies in the solar system to represent the Vault of Heaven theme. For long-distance travelers, the city also has its own airport, Black Rock Airport, located to the south. However, the occasion is not without controversy. Environmentalists have slammed the event, alleging that it emits an estimated 25,000 tons of CO2 into the environment each year. Transportation to and from Black Rock City accounts for 87% of these. Other detractors point to the event's presence of millionaires and billionaires. They even argue that it has become a networking opportunity for these people. They also claim it violates the Burning Man principles. Rich people, in particular, do not bother to attend the event. Instead, they stay inside restricted trailer complexes, mingling with the public solely for media attention. Another concern voiced at the event is the prohibition on burners using any images they take for commercial causes. Critics claim that this breaches free speech and other individual rights. The earthquakes worried geologists and seismologists because they were caused by no major fault. The inquiry is still ongoing, but scientists have ruled out volcanic activity as a possible explanation. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to our channel, since we will be covering a lot of similar content in the future. Till next time, stay curious.